Hey guys, what's going on? It's Alexander Williamson here with The Secret History Living in Your Aquariums. And today we're going to be talking about Neocaridina Shrimp, Cherry Shrimp, Blue Dream Shrimp, Sakura Yellow Shrimp, and also we'll touch on some of the other species and morphs and things like that. But basically, this is a follow-up to all the videos I've done over the last 5 or 6 years where I've talked about breeding shrimp for profit and how you can have a 5, 10, 20-gallon tank and turn a decent profit with these shrimp. And I have to say, things have changed in the world. The last year alone, things have changed, but it's been a long time coming, and it happens constantly in industry, in any field, but also it happens in our hobby with different things. You know, a certain betta or a certain fish starts out really rare, no one knows how to breed it, and after a little while, it starts getting passed on, and there's a tipping point where the market kind of falls out, and it's just not worth doing, at least for profit. Now, if you enjoy it, if you just want to keep them as pets, then by all means, I'm not discouraging that. They're still incredible creatures that are really fun to watch, and, breeding them for that sake, getting rid of them at whatever price you can, even if it's just $1, is still can be a worthwhile endeavor. So don't let me discourage you in that sense. However, in this video, we're going to go over what has changed, what the prices really are. I mean, I have friends that are at the wholesale, the import, and the wholesale local, as well as the domestic breeding and the import level, and I know what they pay. And I'm going to spill some of the behind-the-scenes secrets now, which really informs you what you're up against. So if you want to keep breeding, I suggest, either you already know this stuff, but I suggest you start here with a video like this. And we're talking about the year 2021, and really moving forward. This is how I see it going. And we'll also talk about the areas in which you still can make some money, versus the areas that are really just a futile attempt if you're trying to do that. So let's first talk a little bit about the history just for a minute or two so we know how we got where we are. We're going to keep this video short and concise, which is rare for this channel. If you need a deeper dive on anything like genetics of Neocaridina Shrimp, Neocaridina zangogensis, Davidi, Heteromosa, any of the Caridina, the Babalti, Malawi Shrimp, all those kind of things. We have species profiles, we have genocharts, and they're all up to date as far as we know. But the history of these shrimp being raised is a big reason why your home aquarist is now facing a point where they can't compete. So let's jump into that right now. Alright guys, so first of all, red cherry shrimp. They were the first ones on the scene. Yes, there were tangerine shrimp. Yes, there were bamboo shrimp and other kind of rare exotic shrimp that met the hobby before them. But as far as mass marketing, being able to find them at a box store and being able to afford them, they weren't $20, $40, $100 in some cases for these shrimp. The red humble cherry shrimp is really what we are talking about. And they come in a lot of different types. You've got your Bloody Mary, you've got your different grades from low grade to high grade. And here we've got some of the highest grade. These are painted fire, as well as some Bloody Marys are in there. We've got one oddball female yellow that's pregnant. And then we also have some of these, this is actually my coal tank of red shrimp. So this is how far we've come. You can see here some of them are blotchy, some of them are Riley or Riley, and that means they've got the clear sections. But they hit the scene in 2003. That is the the year, and it was November of 2003 that they really entered the U.S. hobby. That's when they got to Petco, PetSmart, and that's when you could buy them for, you know, $15 a shrimp back then, which now, if you know where to buy them, you can find shrimp of this grade here for as low as $1 or $2 retail. Now, this is a low-grade shrimp. This is just a cherry shrimp. Not that far off from, you know, what their wild form even is. They're just a little more translucent and rusty looking, a little more brown than this. But this right here would be something that you would have found back then. Then, in the years after that, people began to really work with the lines, bring them into the U.S., bring them into Germany, in Taiwan, and in Japan specifically, which is everywhere from Japan to Taiwan to Hong Kong, Malaysia, Indonesia. These shrimp have various species that have then been either hybridized or selected to be bred. You've also got the Neocaridina palmata, the Zangogensis, and the Davidi, and then also the name has changed over time. But you can see that over time, we've been able to make a shrimp that used to once be really fragile, and that was part of why it cost so much money. When you would ship these shrimp into the U.S., you would lose over half, and that was kind of one of the dirty little secrets of this hobby, is, you know, in the 3 days or 4 days it could take to get them from point A to point B at times. Any slowdown, you know, if it went from the 2-day mark to the 4-day mark, you're going to lose shrimp. So, you know, some shrimp are still like that. You've got shrimp such as the striped babalti, pink and purple shrimp. Some people that bring those into the country, transshippers and things, have reported losses at up to 80%. And that's why you see those shrimp going for $20 sometimes. On top of that, their habitat, where some of these shrimp were originally sourced, some of them are still wild shrimp, essentially. If we take a look up here, you can see some other forms of shrimp, like the wild short-nosed algae-eating shrimp from Japan, and these are still kind of in their wild form, so you can still source these at a good price. Now, here is the long-nosed algae-eating shrimp here, full of babies, and another thing that determines price is that these babies, and same with about half the species in the hobby. Up here we have a Pinocchio shrimp. So there's all sorts of shrimp. You can check out species profile videos on my channel or anyone else. I've even got whole playlists dedicated to shrimp. You can learn all about them. But the wild-caught shrimp are just simply not, one, they're not as accessible as they once were. And two, they die on the way in. So they were bred in captivity. And all the ones bred overseas were, one, very vulnerable to whatever water conditions they were used to there. And when they come to the U.S. and they meet our water conditions, as well as the stress of travel, they would die at a high rate. And so it used to be that $10 was a pretty normal price for a good quality shrimp. Now here we have what is Lucas Brett's domestic line of shrimp. Obviously they came from outside the country at one point, but I've had these going on 6 years now, 5 or 6 years, and these won Best in Show at the Aquatic Experience about 2018 or 2017, I want to say. And these are still beautiful shrimp. Now I have to keep up with this line, and this is the kind of shrimp where you can still make money, but it does require a lot of work. Shrimp that are even just this grade right here, a little bit more translucent, a little less vivid in color, maybe they've got the white strip on them, they're going to lose value very quickly to anybody who's out there buying shrimp. Now, growing out shrimp also is not the fastest thing in the world. Here you can see some newborn baby shrimp here and things like that. I used to be able to get in a tank like this, in a 10-gallon tank, I could churn out 30 to 40 shrimp a month if I had it nice, densely populated. Now, when you get into other shrimp, like over in this corner here, we have some crystal red shrimp. You got your crystal black, your pintos, your King Kongs, things like that. They're even more temperamental. And over here, we've got another coal tank just to show you, the difference between a $3 shrimp like this one here and or this one here. Oftentimes they'll market them as fantasy shrimp or some other sky blue shrimp, but really they're just lesser grades oftentimes of these very dark navy blue shrimp. This one just molted, this one just molted, so they turn that vivid, really bright blue color when they're doing that. But the days of selling shrimp for wholesale for $3, and then the store can turn around, triple the price, sell it for $10. Those days are honestly, they're gone. Maybe you'll find a few boutique stores or a few online websites of people who are really passionate about a certain line. There's new shrimp out on the internet which are within the Neocaridina, and by the way, Neocaridinas are incredibly easy to keep compared to most other shrimp, hence also why they fetch a decent price, because if the shrimp's too hard to keep, nobody wants to pay for it. If it's too easy to keep, everybody can raise them, and you're getting to the point now where the lines have gotten so hardy in the US again that anybody can kind of keep them and breed them. And now you're seeing fire or painted fire grade shrimp. You're seeing these once award-winning graded shrimp going for $3, $4, $5 locally at stores. Yes, they're still often $6.99 or $7.99, but if you're talking about trying to make profit and sell to the stores, they're going to want a 3 to 4 times markup, and that only leaves you $1.50. Now, getting this here, the amount of money they make when they do this, the importers are going to be paying somewhere between 20 cents and 60 cents a shrimp. That's for any Neocaridina shrimp, even the new cool ones. The most they're going to pay is maybe 75 cents, 50 cents. And they bring them in, and then they mark them up 3 to 4 times, and then they sell them to a domestic wholesaler. I guess I don't want to name names, but a regional wholesaler who then sells it to pet stores or people with licenses, and then it goes up another 3 or 4 fold. So you've got a $1.50 or $1. In some cases, it was all the way down to 50 cents for painted fire cherry red shrimp when there was a big abundance of them and they were in. Then we had a disease hit a few years ago named Iliobiopsidae, and it's a fungal algae bacteria cluster that actually works in tandem. It has 3 elements, so no wonder it was hard to fix. But it wiped out, it decimated, and it was a death sentence for many, many shrimp. And so it took out a lot of farms. And for a minute there, it kind of gave us false hope that everyone will see the ways of, we need to breed these shrimp domestically. But when it comes down to it, we can't compete in the U.S. with overseas breeding of shrimp. They do it outside in big ponds oftentimes for Neocaridina, and they have free heat from the atmosphere. They have free food in the form of algae and things, and they have the exact water conditions that those shrimp want. So we cannot compete with that. Plus the cost of labor is next to nothing. Cost of land and rent is next to nothing. So really it's the shipping cost that you're paying for there, and a little bit of time and a little bit of effort. But in US, in European, Australian money, it almost translates to nothing. I mean, like I said, you could get these for 17, 20, 30 cents for really good shrimp at one point a year or two ago. Then we also had the big thing that turned the world on its head, the illness that swept the world, and that did change things a little bit. But it seems as though all the farms are going to be back up and running. And when we get into Caridina, King Kong, Pinto, Incredible Hulk or Green Hulk, Blue Bolts, golden bees, Thai bees, you know, all the different Japanese bee shrimp and things like that, they are still holding their value. But remember, you need to pay good money for a good line. And the same is really true with most shrimp in the Neocaridina group. Buy locally, buy a hardy line, ask them what the type of cull rate is. If you have to kill half the shrimp, or I mean they're not up to standard to sell, if they don't match that grade, then it's not a good deal to pay $7, $8, $10 a shrimp. But if 100% of the shrimp look just like their parents and they're super healthy, then maybe it's a great deal for those people who really want a solid line that is healthy and that doesn't have any of the issues that you get with these mass farms and things like that, like the Iliobiopsidae, like other algae and fungal or parasitic infections that are extremely common in the hobby. You really need to look at your source, and if the price is too good to be true, you know they're probably just bringing them in masse, maybe doing a once-over, pulling out the sick ones, and moving them on. That's really the name of the game, is bulk. So I'm going to show you a couple shrimp that I think you can still make some good money on. The one in the thumbnail, for instance, the onyx shrimp, is a new morph. There's also hope in the sense that people are still trying to breed new morphs in Neocaridina. One of those morphs is the tricolor. So the idea of having blue, red, and yellow all in one shrimp. So far, nobody's stabilized that line. Same is true with pink. Same is true with purple. It just hasn't seemed to be a thing that occurs in their genes, and so therefore we haven't seen it. Where I suggest you guys can make some money is with shrimp like Malawi shrimp. Now here you can see I've been setting aside the rusty red ones. Clear is what their default color is, but I've been putting aside the ones that tend towards a little more red and orange, especially in their shoulder, and putting them in one tank. Whereas over here, I'm breeding them out. They breed at a very prolific rate. Over here, I've got some more of the bluer ones. Some of them have gotten quite blue over many generations. So I think that out of the 1,800 species of these shrimp that exist, these dwarf shrimp, there is a lot of potential for what we can do. Now here's some more Malawi shrimp hanging out and eating some food. But this is kind of their default look. And also we've got some gold Nebula shrimp here. They're another Caridina line. There you can see some more of my bluish hued ones. And here we've got the Nebula ones. And if you look closely, they actually have little calcium deposits on their body that give them these white speckles. It's a subtle difference, and they get a bit bigger. They're a little more aggressive, and they eat meat and detritus a little more than just straight algae compared to the Malawi shrimp. But they're a shrimp that you can breed in captivity. Whereas if you get a mono shrimp, for instance, there's another barrier, or ninja shrimp, or I mean, there's just a whole number of shrimp that you cannot breed. They're called secondary or higher level shrimp when they can breed. There's a nice red Malawi, by the way. I'll pull him out, put him in the other tank. And it's just a labor of love to get these shrimp to color up and be separated by color, honestly. But I've been working with the Malawi line now for 4 or 5 years also, and slowly getting some pretty interesting color morphs across the fish room. Takes a lot of tanks, takes a lot of time, but they're also great algae eaters, and they're unusual. And I recommend to anybody who's wanting to get into breeding shrimp for profit, pick a shrimp that people don't know very well yet. Pick a species that can breed in captivity, so that would be a higher order shrimp. That means a shrimp that can actually have little babies that look like itself and reproduce in the tank, rather than having little larval babies that go out and have to be in the open ocean in order to survive. We don't want those. But you can see things like there's the Gold Ridge line that we're seeing in some of the Neocaridinas. Well, people are mixing that with the Rileys or the Rileys, as whatever you want to call it. Here we've got a nice little pregnant female, but up here you can also see we're getting some side patterning and things like that. So there are other patterns that people can bring out in these shrimp. It's just some of them don't seem to want to be stable, and that's the missing secret ingredient into having a line that's profitable. Is it has to be unique looking, and it has to be, like I said, hardy enough to survive. These are such prolific shrimp, the Malawas that I keep working with, that I use them as a food source for gouramis, and it's still a for-profit breeding setup. But I have pretty much all but given up on making good money. There's a nice spider in the picture, by the way. Actually, it's a daddy longlegs, not quite a spider. But I've given up on making good money off of these, except for every so often you'll find a true hobbyist enthusiast that really wants a good grade shrimp that doesn't have any health problems, that they don't need to cull the babies of hardly at all, and I can still get somewhere between $5 and $7 for that, and that's retail. That's not wholesale. At one point, I was getting those prices wholesale, and those days are gone for all Neocaridinas. Now, the very last part of this, I want to show you a couple more species options on the computer, and with a company that I like to work with because they're constantly scouting out new options. And if you already feel like you know these things and you're not interested in it, then thank you for your time. And I'd love to hear your opinions. I mean, maybe your part of the country, it's still really hard to get a hold of good shrimp. Maybe the big box stores aren't carrying the line grades that I'm seeing. So please, in the comments below, let me know what you think. Is the rush over? Are the days where you can crank out 30 or 40 shrimp at $5 a pop, or $4, or even just $3, are those gone? I mean, I've been seeing where shops only want to pay $1 or $2 very, very max for anything, even the best shrimp you bring in. So it's person-to-person sales that you've got to rely on after that point, or something exotic that is a higher order reproductive type species, like the green babalti, like the striped babalti for that matter, or Malawi shrimp, but not like the ninja shrimp. There's some really cool color-changing shrimps and things, but they have the larval state, and unless you have saltwater tanks and some real dedication and magic, it's just not going to work out. So let's take a look at what is on the cutting edge of where you might be able to still make a little money for a while. And obviously, if anything strikes your fancy, get it, because they're still great pets, they're still great algae eaters, and they're very fascinating to work with in general. So let's take a look at that, and that will conclude today's video. Alright guys, so here are my favorite source of shrimp, and it's always changing what they have access to, because they only ethically source shrimp. They only want shrimp where they have high survival rates. If they don't get that, or if they come in with a parasite, they'll hold them for up to 90 days to try to get them well, but usually they'll just say we're not ordering from that place again, and that is very unlike most wholesalers and other places online. Here you can see the gold Nebula shrimp that I was talking about, the Caridina Villadolidi. That's an interesting shrimp with lots of potential for the sparkles in it. You've also got the Little Red Riding Hood or Santa Neocaridinas, where just the head is red. And then you've got your standard shrimp, but you can see the price has come all the way down. Even for domestic 90-day quarantine highest grade shrimp, you're going to be paying only $5 or $6, which means they need to make a 3 to 4 times markup usually in the fish industry. That's just how it goes to pay employees, rent, upkeep, all of that. Now, you've got your Amano shrimp, but you're not going to breed those in captivity. They are bred in captivity, I must say, but it is a very specialized setup where the larvae need to be in salt water and there need to be tide simulations. and all sorts of stuff. And so if you are watching this video, you are not ready for that. If you were ready, you'd already be there. But you know, things like the Blue Dream shrimp are still really pretty, and they're still commanding a good price. And the highest end Blue Dreams, you can see, are still fetching, the Blue Diamonds and things are still fetching really good money for the highest of the high end. And that is like why I'm breeding them, that there is some potential there. But for the majority of shrimp, that's not the case anymore. Even blue bolts, which used to be $30, $40 for this grade, now you're seeing them for 16, for 10, for 7. It just depends where. But I just want to show you there are so many different shrimp out there. You know, there's Sakura Orange. That's a color that's popular, and then all the colors that there are, you've also got Riley versions. You've got the versions with just the head having color or just the tail. You've also got the ones that have the blue instead of clear body. And then you've got these Blue Dreams, which, similar to the ones I've had, the $8.59 mark. You can see they look electric, they look lit up. But here we've got like freshwater prawns, and I believe they're one that is actually, you're able to tank breed. That's a new and exotic shrimp, and it's a big shrimp. Maybe there's potential there if you want to start a colony. The long-nose algae shrimp, these guys don't breed in captivity because of that same ocean thing, but they do live quite some time. You saw them in my fish room, and they're fun to keep, but they're just not set up for profit for hobbyists. Same with the gold line yellow Neocaridina, still commanding $7 to $8 wholesale. Same with the Bloody Marys, which have red tissue rather than just red exoskeletons. And, you know, the Blue Rillies, Blue Rileys, they're all still floating at that price. But remember, just because they're expensive to buy doesn't mean that they're a good price as far as what you'll be getting for them. And that really is the crux of the issue. You can get this grade shrimp for $2 or $3, the early grade cherry shrimps and things like that. But again, here's a Pinocchio shrimp. That's another one that's been around a while. Kind of a funky looking shrimp, kind of interesting. But you can tank breed these, and they are rather interesting. There are, like I said, 1,800 known shrimp species in the dwarf shrimp camp. These are another great one that I've bred, and they're a color changer. They turn orange, they turn stripe colors, they turn all sorts of different colors, and they're actually related to these zebra bibaltis, which this is basically the wild zebra bibalti. These are the ones that die so frequently in shipping. The other problem is that they are going to be, sick in shipping with all sorts of diseases because they're mixed with the cheaper shrimp oftentimes. The water is the same water that they get put into, and then you have to decontaminate and deal with all that. Now, another frontier in breeding Neocaridinas has been getting a good, predictable green line, and it appears as though Aquatic Arts here has done that. They've sourced it, and I have some of them, and they are very true compared to any greens I've had in the past. We also have albino bibaltis. We have these tangerine tigers. You've got tangerine super tigers. I mean, there's all sorts of shrimp out there now. So do your research. Find out which ones you can breed. Caridina propinqua. There's another orange sun-kissed bee shrimp. They're a really pretty one. There are Siloese shrimp, which can be raised in captivity in tanks. They've got the big long whiskers. They're only from one lake in the world, and there's actually quite a few shrimp like them. And then there is the Caridina serrata rotaris, which this is known as the ninja shrimp. Turns blood red to black to tan to golden. There's a pregnant female there. but it cannot be bred in captivity as far as we've found so far. Taiwanese beauty shrimp. So these are Caridina formosa. Another one with just really pretty intricate details. And again, this one can be bred in tanks. So I just want to open your minds to some of the other things out there. If you're interested in any of these shrimp or keeping an eye out for when they come in stock at Aquatic Arts, you can go to the description below and find the promo code to buy them. Also, you know, Lucas Brett's, Flip Aquatics, there's plenty of places to look. This happens to be my favorite. They have the best guarantee, best survival rate that I've found, and they bring in ethically sourced shrimp that they've checked out the facilities of, and that is peace of mind, which is worth more than anything else to me when I'm starting a whole new line. So thanks guys for tuning in. We appreciate it. If you like the content today, please click the bell for further updates. You know how it goes. And this has been The Secret History, living in your aquarium. I just kind of wanted to update the breeding shrimp for profit theory videos that I put out early on, that Aquarium Co-op put out early on, 5 years ago or so even now, and how things have changed and what those elements at play are. So thank you for watching. Thanks for your time. This has been a deep dive, and I will talk to you later. Bye.